Hi, and welcome to Sport Psych and Stuff with me, David. For this episode, we are going to examine self-regulation in endurance sports. Endurance sports are some of the most challenging and brutal physical activities that humans can take part in. Yet, for these same reasons, they also endure as one of the most popular challenges that people take part in. From the elite level all the way to the beginner and everywhere in between, endurance sports includes events like marathon running, open water swimming, cycling, triathlon, cross-country skiing, and more. Basically, any kind of sport where a sustained aerobic activity over a long period of time is required is an endurance sport. Each individual sport has variations regarding duration, length, and format, not to mention the physical, technical, and logistical demands. However, they are similar in that athletes must endure dynamic and whole body exercise continuously performed over middle to long distances. I was invited by TSV Bayer Leverkusen athlete and elite runner Jonny Dahlke to join him for a training session with his training partner Max Kreitner. Jonny is an elite level endurance runner who specializes in the 800, 1500, 3000, and 5000 meter on the track, as well as the 10K in street events. The psychological demands of endurance sports offer a shared mentality among athletes who must develop unique coping skills and strategies in training and preparation for such events. For Jonny and Max, these are important skills that they continuously practice throughout their training and competitive periods as well as other parts of their daily lives.
From what I was expecting before the season, a really underwhelming summer season on the track. And after an altitude training camp in March, April, I came back and I got sick, and then that stayed with me for a couple weeks. And motivation at that point is sort of up and down. And just recently, it was a slightly different situation because I just came off of a season break and I really was, just in the build-up. So it really isn't as bad to get an infection as it would be like in the middle of the season when you expect to reach peak performance. So I'm still quite a bit away from that. So it didn't take as hard of a mental hit as maybe getting sick during the season would have or did have this year. But my technique, if you will, in situations like this is always to remind myself that I have a certain capability, and I've shown that capability in past races, past workouts, past championship races, whatever it might be. And I try to remember those times, when everything's flowing. You hit great workouts, you hit great performances in races, and I just try to get back into the mindset I had back then, because I try not to amplify the positives and the negatives too much. I try to stay sort of in the middle always mentally, which is at times really tough to do, but it's all about consistency in my sport, and it's all about mid-term, long-term development. So you're not going to make up a good 6 weeks, not even weeks, 6 months of training, of good training within 2 or 3 weeks, and you're not going to lose a great shape once you have it very quickly. So you're not going to lose it when you just miss a couple weeks or even just 1 week of getting sick. So I always try to remind myself that a good shape, a good period of training, a good race is always around the corner. And that's really this belief that I hold, or that I try to hold at all times, that capability is always there to unlock. And if I have a bad practice or a bad race, I just try to bring that up in my mind, really try to remind myself of that.
The rise in popularity and participation in endurance sport competitions for both recreational and competitive athletes is attributed to the physical, psychological, and social benefits that they offer. These include unique challenges that balances the perception of effort to that of the motivation in pursuit of a goal, while pushing people to express themselves physically over an extended period of time. Major benefits include increased physical fitness, weight loss, positive perceptions of self, feelings of accomplishment, social identity, and so many more. It has also been used as a treatment tool for people who develop psychiatric disorders, including depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. In Jonny's track season this year, he's faced numerous setbacks and roadblocks that have made it difficult for him to achieve the goals that he laid out at the beginning of the season. He has already mentioned some of these, and he will also continue to mention a few more. Any athlete in sport learns and understands throughout their training and competition that things don't always go according to plan, and that the plan must be adapted to the current needs and demands of the season as it develops. This is where the psychobiological model of endurance performance comes into play in regard to training and competition for endurance sports. Participation in endurance sports and the potential effects of it as a psychological intervention is often framed within the psychobiological model of endurance performance. This model examines perception of effort and exercise with the potential motivation as a determinant for endurance performance. Essentially speaking, how strenuous does the exercise feel and how much effort is the athlete willing to put into it to achieve a goal? The psychobiological model of endurance performance structures how athletes mentally cope with the demands of the sport throughout different phases of preparation, performance, and reflection.
It really is dependent always when I plan workouts like this on part of the season I'm in. So right now I'm coming off of a really recent COVID infection, and I was supposed to be in training camp preparing for the fall part of the season, which is usually road running season. And that particular part of the season, it's always about building up a base, because I was just coming off of a summer track season and had a little break, 2 weeks, and now it's about building a base, just getting back into running a little bit quicker. And I had that special situation with the COVID infection that I just recently had. And I came down from altitude in St. Moritz in Switzerland, so about 1,800 meters up in altitude. So those are all some factors that I take into planning a session like this. I actually didn't plan the session myself. I do get it from my coach, which at this point of the season helps because I don't have to think much about what kind of distance I have to run, what kind of rest I have to take. It's really just about executing what coach gives me at that stage of the season, because we don't have a lot of race performances to go by. Fitness levels really hard to judge. So this is really a program that was supposed to be easy, feel easy, and it was supposed to tell us a little bit about where we stand fitness-wise, so we can move forward to the next sessions. So that was really the mindset going into it as well. So I try to stay as relaxed as possible, try to feel out every rep, try to hit the splits that coach has given me, try to stick to the rest that I had, and just really try to, when I run behind Max, which is always something that's nice, I try to incorporate to find someone to run with, because it helps you a tremendous amount if you're a runner, and especially if you run in the heat like this. You can just stay behind your partner and just switch off completely and just get going. And then it's really all about feel at this point, you know. The motivational part that usually plays a role as well when I have a really hard workout and I go into it and think to myself, okay, I really have to grind hard. I really have to put everything into it. Today it wasn't like that. Today was just staying under control. Try to not to do too much and work maybe on the rhythm, on the form, and try to stay as relaxed as possible, really.
The first part of the model looks into self-regulation. Self-regulation are self-generated thoughts, feelings, and actions that are planned and cyclically adapted to the attainment of personal goals. This requires the use of self-oriented feedback loops that occur throughout the phases of self-regulation, learning to help maintain, guide, and if needed, motivate the cycle. This allows athletes to monitor and adjust their goal-directed activities based on the situational context and feedback loop so as to adapt to the current needs of their situation. There are 3 phases of self-regulation. There's the forethought phase, which involves task analysis, planning, goal setting, activation of strategies, and self-motivation, which include outcome expectations and intrinsic interest.
I think I have a natural inner drive that helps me to stay with being motivated and going through a tough period maybe. But I would definitely say that skills training would help in situations like that for sure. Cool. I mean, I'm the last person to tell you otherwise, as you know, as a sports psych major. But what I've learned throughout the studies, if you will, is that the natural state of mind that I had already in my sport and the drive that I had already was always a positive one. And I learned that I enjoy what I do and that's the main reason why I do it. So it's always that I can fall back on even when things are tough and maybe I'm performing not as well as I should. I always have that enjoyment aspect, if you will, still, and that really gets me going as well. So yeah, I don't actively use many techniques. Maybe goal setting, I would say, would be one thing that I utilize, which in track and field, honestly, is very straightforward. You set certain times that you want to hit. You have certain benchmarks that you want to be at certain points of the season, and yeah, it's really about hitting those times and hitting those benchmarks. That those are really the stepping stones, I would say, throughout the season. Yeah.
The second phase is performance, in which you practice self-control, including the deploying of strategies developed in the forethought phase, visualization, imagery, positive self-talk, and strategically focused attention. You also have a self-observation, in which the evaluation of your current performance and behaviors is undertaken. The third phase is self-reflection, which includes self-judgment of comparing an observed performance against a standard, that is, a prior performance or another person's performance, and self-reaction, your self-satisfaction in the effort and willingness to engage in future activities. In this aspect of self-regulation, the employment of psychological skills training is often utilized during these 3 phases to drive the cycle. Next, we will examine self-efficacy, that is, the beliefs in one's capabilities to mobilize the motivation, cognitive resources, and course of action needed to meet the situational demands. The belief that an individual can as opposed to will. This is derived through integration and appraisal of information from past performances, social persuasions, and perceptions of physiological and emotional states. A perception of self is often a better predictor of behavior and performance than objective measures.
It's really difficult to explain to you exactly how it feels if you have like a really tough workout. Like today wasn't too hard, but when you have a really tough workout, there's always a bit of uncertainty as well, whether you can actually do it. Actually, at this part of the season as well, not even with tougher stuff, but just regular stuff that normally you would breeze through in a really good shape. But at this point of the season, you're just building up and you don't know where you're at. And that's really like this ambiguity. That's actually, I would say, another problem that you have to deal with. But in a way, I'm so experienced that I have that every year, and I know by now how that feels, you know. So I always try to not overemphasize anything good or bad happening at this stage of the season, because I know, okay, it'll take 3, 4, 5 weeks to get to a certain level. So yeah, it's just that stage of the season. And if you talk to me during a different period of the season, maybe in 2 or 3 months, it'll be a different story, and I can come back and share my mindset with you at that point, at that part of the season.
Finally, we will look at emotional regulation, that is, the processes by which individuals influence which emotions they have, when they have them, how they experience them, and how they express them. Endurance athletes face many various stressors throughout their training and competition. They also can experience harmful emotions in response to such stressors, such as anxiety, frustration, and discouragement. This impacts motivation, focus of attention, self-confidence, and concentration. In turn, positive emotions can be very beneficial. How can an athlete cultivate emotions that are helpful and manage emotions that are harmful before, during, and after training and competition? Various strategies are utilized, including, as we mentioned before, the psychological skills training, among other tools.
I try to surround myself with a positive group of people. So really, when it comes to setbacks or negative emotions that come up, they're really pretty rare, I would say. Just recently, I had a pretty tough time when I was in training camp and I had the COVID infection. I was in isolation. I was supposed to train, build up for the season, and I couldn't. And just sat in my room on the bed, wondering whether, I could get any training out of the camp that I had planned for at least a couple months. But you learn pretty quickly that if you worry about it too much at that point of the season, it's not going to get you. It's not going to get you anywhere. So I try to stay in close contact with my coach, with my girlfriend actually. That helps me during that time. Communicating with her. Really trying to remind myself of the positive experiences that I had early in the season, maybe, or the past seasons, and it really comes back to that belief that I mentioned earlier, that I'm always capable of reaching that peak shape that I once had, and that our peak shape is always around the corner, no matter what, and that's why. Yeah, most of the time I'm really able to stay in a positive mindset, and it surely helps if you have teammates who share that belief and who really lift you up in a way. So that makes it really easy to stay positive, and really, if you have a bad workout, a bad performance, to switch back to a positive mindset really quickly. And I allow myself to be disappointed as well, but not for long. If I have a bad race, maybe I say, a couple hours, you can stay mad, but then the focus has to be on the future. And that's really a consistent mindset that I have as well.
The psychobiological model works as a useful intervention tool to help endurance athletes learn how to cope with stress and emotions as they train and compete. This then serves to build mental resilience and toughness that can also translate to serve the athlete's mindset outside of their athletic training and in other parts of their life, especially when it comes to learning how to cope with stressful situations. For Jonny and Max, despite the setbacks and roadblocks from the previous season, the focus is on training from where they are at right now and setting goals based on this for their upcoming street season. There is a lot of work to be done for sure, but the optimism is there, and the preparation/forethought phase is already in action. We are excited to see what will happen in the next few months as they continue to train and compete. And that's it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in, and please let me know your thoughts and feedback in the comments. Also, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I hope you have an active, fit, and fabulous day.